A very good afternoon to you all. On behalf of Chairman Professor Nachane, Director Professor Revati, and on behalf of Division for Graduate Studies, it gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome the new batch of PhD scholars to our institution. This is the 10th batch of our full-time PhD program. Dear students, we look forward to your active participation in the academic and research activities of the Institute. May your new chapter be filled with insightful learning, enriching experiences, and significant achievements. I extend my best wishes for your success. Once again, on behalf of our director and CESS, I welcome you all to the PhD program and to a journey of discovery. Special thanks to Professor Nachane, Chairman CESS, for accepting the director's invitation to give the inaugural address. Before I hand it over to our chairperson, Professor Revati, for today's proceedings, we'll have a quick round of introductions. And that so I'm Alivelu Kasturi. I'm the Dean of PhD Program and Associate Professor at CESS.
Good afternoon to everyone. I am Dr. Y. Srinivasulu, Associate Professor, Center for Economics, Associate Professor in Economics. My research experience on agrarian studies, migration, and development of the marginalized communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Krishna Rao, Faculty Sociology, as well as Academic Coordinator from DGS, Division for Graduate Studies. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Priya. I just joined as a PhD scholar to this. Thank you.
You can also tell your discipline.
I am from Department of Business Management, Business Administration.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is E.D. Ravindra Gaur. I have joined as a new PhD scholar here. I am from Economics Department. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kurupa Kumar. I have completed my integrated master's program from Hyderabad Central University. I have joined here as a PhD scholar in Sociology Department. Thank you.
My name is Ashutosh Pandey and I did my master's from University of Telangana. I joined here as a PhD candidate in subject of economics.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Srividya. I have done my PG from Central University of Punjab in MA Political Science. Here, I will be continuing my PhD in Political Science.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Dharamswat Praveen. I have completed my postgraduate in Pondicherry Central University. I joined here as a PhD scholar. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've done my master's from Madras School of Economics, and I've also worked in market research for around 8 years. And my department here is economics.
Your name, please. You missed your name.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Vidita. I'm a PhD scholar here in the Department of Political Science.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Geeta. I'm a research scholar from 2021 batch in the area of economic discipline. My area of research is education, particularly focusing on factors affecting educational outcomes and their impact on job market. For this, I'm working with English India in longitudinal study. Thank you.
This is Aparna, faculty here at CESS.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Suresh Reddy. I'm professor at CESS. I work in the area of agriculture.
Good morning. I am Professor Indrakant, visiting professor at CESS. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Neha Mishra. I have done my master's from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and here I joined as a PhD scholar in the field of sociology. Thank you.
Good morning, all. I'm Ravi, retired professor. I coordinate econometrics course.
Good afternoon. I am a student of the Department of Economics of our chairman, and introducing myself in front of my teacher is a very difficult task.
And to the students also.
I'm talking, I was a student in our chairman's department in the late 1970s and early 1990s. and that gave me the capability to visit France, Russia as exchange scholars. I was in the US as senior Fulbright scholar for 1 year, things like that. So I'm our chairman student. That's enough for me.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gopinath Reddy. I retired as a professor in political science here in CESS. I'm continuing as a research consultant presently here.
Dr. Vijay, you can say, and then we can start from there. Yeah.
Myself, Vijay Korra. I'm faculty here. I work on migration and labor issues. And I teach first module, paradigm shift. Thank you.
Dr. Lakshmi.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nachane. I coordinate research here in CESS in the Division for Studies of Social Inclusion. We basically work in the area of inclusive development. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is M. Ramananda. I'm working as assistant professor in inclusive development project.
Good afternoon. I am Ph.D. currently retired faculty, now working as a consultant. In my area of exposure is agriculture, rural development, and child welfare.
Good afternoon, all. I am Venkat Narayana. I am coordinating research cell on education. Area of work is economics of education.
Good afternoon to all. I am Dr. Murali Prasad, library.
I am Venkat, coordinator for this PhD program.
Thank you all. And on my behalf, I welcome our chairman, Professor Nachane, to this induction session for the batch, PhD batch, who are joining in this in this academic year. I also welcome warmly all the new students who are here, who have joined the PhD program. As we know, we have admitted 12 students this year, and 5 fall into the economics discipline, and 4 sociology and social work, and 3 in political science and public administration. I think 2 of them are from public administration and 1 political science. So in all, there are 12 scholars who have joined the PhD program for this year. I'm heading the institute right now, and I work in the areas of agricultural economics with attention to land rights for women, and then also cutting across different issues of development studies. And I also teach research methodology. That is section 1. We have philosophy of science. I share it with Professor Yamnam and others who also teach section 2 research methods. And also in the second semester, I teach paradigms in economics. So I take the pleasure to introduce our chairman, Professor Nachane. And Professor Nachane is currently Professor Emeritus, Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research in Mumbai. And he has many accolades to his credit. He has been continuously listed in Marquis International Who is Who for the last 15 years. For his outstanding contributions to research and teaching of economics in India, he received the UGC Pranavananda Saraswati Award. So actually, he is a favorite of his students, as Professor Yamnam has already said. And one of his students, Romer Kori, first batch student of Professor Nachane, who was also RBI Chair Professor of Monetary Economics, he comments in his discussion that Professor Nachane is a Renaissance man. He taught history of economics and economic history, literature and philosophy. So he is into all these fields. And more so, his work is in macroeconomics and monetary economics. And he has contributed more than 100 research papers. And also his books are on India econometrics, theoretical foundations and empirical perspectives. He edited and co-edited 7 volumes, including the India Development Report 2011. And he's currently the editor-in-chief of Journal of Quantitative Economics. and also co-editor of Macroeconomics and Finance in Emerging Market Economies. He has, as I said, he's a well-known macro monetary economist of international repute. Extensively worked on transition of monetary policy to real economy and inflation and inflation estimation, exchange rate regimes, business cycles, international trade and balance of payments. So his work is mostly in this. His book on critique of new consensus macroeconomics and implications for India. So he has presented an alternative viewpoint to mainstream macroeconomic theory, questioning the conventional policy thinking. And on this, he has already given a lecture to us. It's also a pleasure listening to Professor Nachane. Listeners generally they enjoy and learn a lot from his lectures. And we hope to look forward for lectures by him to our students also. Whenever it's possible, whenever he's here with us, he gives a lecture to the students. And as his students say, he's a best teacher. So I welcome you, sir. And the program is, you have been associated with this program for the past 4-5 years. And you know that this program is organized in 2 semesters. And we have 4 + 3, 7 papers in 2 semesters. First semester, we have 4 papers. That's the research methodology and paradigms in development. And also we have this paradigms, econometrics and quantitative economics for non-economic students. And also in the second semester, we have again 3 papers, continuing with the, philosophy of science and paradigms. We have also paradigms in their respective disciplines. That means students here are joining from 3 streams mainly, economics and sociology and political science. And they also come from allied subjects like social work to sociology, and then agricultural economics and commerce and business management affiliated to economics, and then public administration and to the political science. So broadly, these are the 3 streams, what in social sciences we call the trinity of social sciences. And so therefore, for some of the papers, they get divided into their, especially in the second semester, they also have a paper where they study the paradigms in their respective disciplines. And also the applied econometrics and applied statistics paper is also there in the second semester. Recently, Professor Nachane has reviewed our papers also in April and suggested some changes to be made in the papers which were made. So, and we have very experienced teachers handling the classes too. So these 2 semesters would be completing in 10 months, and after which they prepare a proposal and then present it in the doctoral committee and get registered and work for their PhD thesis. I now request Professor Nachane to address the students. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Revati, Dr. Alivelu, Professor Amar Yumnam, our colleagues, that is academic staff, administrative staff, if any, and dear students. Let me begin with a thanks and a prayer. Okay, the thanks is to God for keeping the internet working. Okay, and the prayer is also addressed to God to keep the internet working throughout this session. Okay, now I thought, you see, I'm in the habit of giving talks on various topics. So today I thought I will give a talk which is based on my experience of guiding PhD students, candidates, over a number of years. Okay? As a matter of fact, I have guided nearly 35 to 40 students in my long teaching career. And I have come across various kinds of difficulties that students face in the course of their research, and which sometimes disheartens them and turns them away from their topic also. So let me enumerate a few guideposts, okay, for PhD students, which they hopefully will find useful. Okay, before I begin my formal lecture, I must say that I would strongly recommend all of you to read a book by Professor Indrakant, who is here, I think. Okay, Professor Indrakant. His book on my experience in research, okay, is a very good book, and I think will be extremely useful for all students. So I begin by recommending that book. Okay. Now let me see what are the main steps that a PhD student has to undertake in embarking on this journey. Now, like any journey, you see, Professor Dixit, Avinash Dixit, the famous economist, you see, he said that, see, before we embark on any research project, you must be thoroughly prepared, okay? And he gave an example of the exploration of the southern pole, okay? You know, some of you may know this story, that the Norwegian explorer Amundsen and the British explorer Scott, okay, both of them were in a race to reach the South Pole first. Okay, Amundsen was fully prepared, well read, and exactly knew what preparation is necessary to reach the South Pole. And Scott, who was coming from a sort of aristocratic family, took the issue somewhat lightly, okay, had not prepared fully. And ultimately, what happened was that Amundsen made it to the South Pole successfully before Scott, and Scott lost his life and those of many of his, colleagues in this adventure. So, being fully prepared is a very, very important topic research. Now, one of the first things that one has to decide on is the choice of the topic. Okay, what are the topics? What topic would you like to choose? Now, here you have a choice between theory and practice. You could choose a topic in economic theory, or you could choose a topic in applied economics. Okay. Now, if you are choosing a topic in theory, okay, I'll just speak briefly about that. Okay. You have to be very careful that you have thoroughly read the problem and understood the problem. Okay. For example, one topic in theory which many students choose or used to choose in those days was about Marxist transformation problem, Karl Marx's transformation problem. This was a favorite topic of research. And there are lots of papers on this. Okay? The outcome of this research has sometimes found its way into journals like the Cambridge Journal of Economics and so on. So this is one topic of research. I'm just giving some examples. I'm not saying that you should select these topics, but I'm saying the kind of topics, okay, that are usually chosen in theoretical thing. See, the other kind of thing is comparative analysis. Okay, some people choose, say, for example, topics like comparative analysis of Robertson, Hawtrey, and Keynes. Okay, on monetary economics and how they shape the future evolution of macroeconomics. That's a good theoretical topic. Okay. Some people choose Latin American economics, Latin American school of thinking, say the Singer-Previs thesis and so on, the Latin American dependency school, etc. And in recent years, a great deal of PhD research has been in the areas of general equilibrium theory, market design, environmental economics, climate change, disaster planning, and so on. So it is your choice as to whether you choose theory or applied. But if you choose theory, you can choose any of a number of topics. There are a wide variety of topics available. But you should know what goes with each topic. What goes with each topic. For example, if you take a topic like general equilibrium theory, then you have to have a very strong mathematical background. Okay? So before you finalize the topic, please review the literature and see whether the kind of methodology which is being used, in these areas is amenable to your expertise. So that's a very important thing. Now, I must say that I'm confining my remarks, being an economist, I'm confining my remarks to research in economics, but possibly research in political science and sociology. Okay, with appropriate changes, the same principles possibly hold. Now, theoretical economics, I see that if you look at the total research being done in India, especially, you will find that about 2 to 3% of the research is devoted to theoretical economics. About 90 to 95% of the research is devoted to applied economics. Okay. Now, in applied economics, okay, once again, the first obstacle that you have to overcome is the obstacle of measurement of the concept. Okay. Very often, people want to work on what is the relationship between investment and profit. They want to do an applied work to study the relationship between investment and profits in India. How are profits defined? Okay. How is investment defined? How is investment defined in India? See, what are the sources of information that you will need to find in, to get data on investment? Unemployment. Okay. That's another favorite area of research. Here also, you have to be very careful about measurement issues. So measurement issues are extremely important. Okay. And then, of course, once you have sorted out the measurement issues, okay, and once you are fairly familiar with the data sources, see, it's very, very important to be familiar with the data sources in the Indian context. Okay. Different sources of data give you different kind of interpretations. Okay. So you have to be thoroughly acquainted with the data sources that you are going to use. What is the difference between data published by the RBI? What is the difference between data published by the RBI and the annual survey of industry? Then the national sample surveys and so on. Okay. So you will of course be using one source of data, but you must know exactly where it is found, how many years, the length of the span of the data, and how exactly is the data defined. So that is a very important thing. Now, you have to then look at what is the... See, one has to decide the scope of the study. See, very often people confuse case studies with a PhD thesis. Okay. Now, there was a lady, one of my students, who was staying in a suburb of Bombay called Kalyan. And she did an excellent study of the water supply situation in her suburb of Kalyan. Later on, she wanted to submit the same work as a PhD thesis. Now you see that kind of work will not do because it's too narrow in scope. Anything you can talk about the water supply situation in Maharashtra or Punjab or Telangana. That's a different issue. Or you can talk about the water supply situation in the country as a whole. There have been excellent studies, for example, of the water supply situation in Punjab, okay, also in Maharashtra and many other states. So at least the unit of study should be large enough to be meaningful. Should be large enough to be meaningful. So you can't have a very micro study. So please remember that a good case study need not be a good PhD thesis, need not be material for a PhD thesis. Okay. Now, similarly, there have been excellent study on self-help groups in a particular village, okay, or financial inclusion in a particular village. Now, those kinds of, they are excellent case studies, but I don't think they would qualify for, for a PhD thesis in most good universities. Secondly, and this is a mistake that many students commit, the topic must not be of transitory significance. See, sometimes what happens, the newspaper, social media, and so on, bring some topic into prominence, okay, or events bring some topic into prominence. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. And this is a true story. All my examples are based on true stories. See, we had one of my friends in Bombay. See, this was in 1968, everyone was talking about social control of banks. Okay. That was a very, very fashionable topic. So for his PhD thesis, he chose this topic, social control of banks. Okay. And he did a substantial amount of work on this. But all this work was completely nullified, okay, when the banks were nationalized in 1969. In 1969. So when you choose a topic for PhD, please see that it is not of transitory significance. Okay. Say, for example, the Trump tariffs. You may think that today the Trump tariffs are a very important topic, but you see how long they will last, okay, is very, very doubtful. Similarly, in politics, you see, you have to be careful to see that you are not carried away by some kind of thing which is only of transitory significance. Okay. Now, an event like demonetization, the event demonetization in India, 1916, is an event, a particular event, it's an episodic event. But I would say that it could be a good topic for PhD thesis for the simple reason that demonetization is a situation which can repeat itself often, which can repeat itself in the future. And the lessons that we draw from the current demonetization would be useful, okay, for policy analysis in future episode. Okay. Another mistake that students commit is to choose a very popular topic on which a lot has been written. Okay. Now, for example, neoliberalism. A lot has been written on neoliberalism. Okay. But for a PhD thesis, you have to contribute something new. Okay. When there is a lot of literature which has already come in, it is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult for you to come up with something new. Another example, okay, is demographic dividend theory. A lot has been written on the demographic dividend theory, both for India and for a lot of other countries. And this has almost become like an established principle, demographic, established truth almost, demographic dividend. Now, if you want to work on demographic dividend, and you have the hypothesis that the demographic dividend theory is wrong, okay? If you work on that and come up with this new conclusion, that thesis could have some merit, okay? So if you are working on a very popular topic, see whether you can throw a new perspective on that, okay? That would be a valuable PhD thesis, okay? Now, I tell my students that instead of trying a fresh topic, okay, try new topics. Try new topics. And students can be quite innovative. Students can be quite innovative. Long time back in Bombay University, we had a student who came from not a very good, not a very prominent university, somewhere in UP. Okay. But he came in Bombay and, to do his PhD, he did it with one of our colleagues. His thesis at that time was that he had noticed in his informal observation, that time you see rural electrification was marginal. Okay. India had not been totally rurally electrified. He found that villages in which rural electrification had taken place, okay, had lower birth rates, okay, than villages in which electrification had not taken place. Okay. So he worked on this and he came up with this conclusion that where rural electrification had taken place, okay, TV, okay, and radio had made an impact, okay, had influenced the villagers with, both government family planning propaganda as well as by showing programs in which small and limited families seem to be doing well and better than large and unplanned families. Okay, so this is a new intuition. This is a new intuition. He developed the thesis. And later on, he went abroad. And I don't know what happened to him. But he was. This is an example of a successful insight. So even students can come up with very, very interesting insights. Okay, I had a student, who told me, sir, I have gone through a lot of data, company data. I have gone through a lot of company data, and I find that companies who make higher profits are not necessarily the companies which are having higher investment. In other words, higher profits are not leading to higher investment in India, in many sectors. I asked him to explore that hypothesis. Why is this happening? And he found out that what was happening was that as shareholder prominence increased, there was increasing pressure. On management to distribute dividends, and less to put in reserves for investment. Now, this is the new intuition. He completed a very, very successful thesis. So that is a very, very important idea. Now, one of the things which has become very important in recent years, okay, is exploratory data analysis. Okay, statistics and computers have developed in a very big way, right? You can now, implement very complicated programs on computers. And therefore, the importance of exploratory data analysis has increased. When you embark on your thesis, there will be some empirical work. You're working on an applied problem. What is the kind of statistical methodology that will be employed in this empirical work? Now, I'm just mentioning a few kind of statistical techniques which are being used for empirical analysis. One is the analysis of variance, analysis of covariance, then factor analysis, principal component analysis. And these principal component analysis and factor analysis, incidentally, are now very much used by sociologists and political scientists. Okay? Regression, time series, and so on. Now, you please very familiar please be very familiar with the techniques that you are going to use. If you are going to use regression in your study, and which many students do, you should thoroughly understand the theoretical basis of regression. Okay. See, you nowadays have the situation that regression, you can push a button and get the regression results. But if you can't interpret them, see, if you can't interpret them, you see, that does not make sense. Okay? When I was in Manchester, I used to find many of the students, you see, I was also sort of a senior student there. So many of these students were my friends. They would come to me with huge computer output. I said, Dilip, please tell us what these results mean. Okay. So you see, they had oodles and oodles of data pages, but they just did not know how to interpret the data. So you can't interpret the data successfully, okay, unless you have understood the theory behind regression, unless you have understood the theory behind, this thing. Secondly, okay, we always compare ourselves to medicine, okay. See, you see, economics is like medicine. Economics is imperfect. Medicine is imperfect. Okay. Yes, medicine is imperfect. And all of us have had experience of medicine being imperfect. Some of these are very unhappy experiences. They're there. But nowadays, there is a very big step forward in medical research. And what is that? About 20 years back, in medical research, if you found a correlation between smoking and cancer or smoking and cardiac problems, you immediately concluded that smoking caused cancer or smoking caused, heart problems. Now, establishing results purely on the basis of correlation is not accepted in medicine. You have to supply the reason. Why is it? What is the medical reason? What is the medical reason by which smoking causes cancer? How does smoking affect or tamper with the DNA? How does smoking affect mutation of cells? All this, unless you are able to specify, your research will not be published in a reputed journal. In economics also, that stage is slowly coming. Okay? Slowly coming. Today, if you find a correlation between money supply and inflation, no journal will simply publish your result saying that, look here, this guy has found that money supply causes inflation. You have to show exactly why is it you believe that money supply causes inflation. Why is it that money supply causes inflation? So this causality link, or what is usually called as the causal chain, is very, very important. Today, for example, Trump tariffs. Even if you're writing a paper on Trump tariffs, you will have to say how exactly. See, tariffs are bad, that we all know. Okay, tariffs will affect our exports, that also we'll know. But what is the mechanism? What is the mechanism that tariffs will impinge on exports? How will they affect global value chains? All this is important. Okay, if you can specify this link, then only it becomes a worthwhile project. Okay, and finally, I would say, okay, that you must be able, okay, to, you see, now there are two kinds of theses. Some are purely normative. You are just interested in explaining something. You are just, but most PhD theses, at least their ambition is to provide some positive guidelines for policy. Okay, some positive guidelines for policy. Okay, why do particular programs work and particular programs don't work? Okay, say for example, there was a very good study done at IGIDEA when I was director, that was done by Dr. Srijit Mishra with some colleagues from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. That was about the problem of farmer suicides. of farmer suicides in Maharashtra. Okay. Now, this problem has been worrying most policymakers and analysts in Maharashtra. Okay. As to why Maharashtrian farmers are committing suicide. What are the factors? Now, Dr. Mishra and his team, they went into the various villages, surveyed the households where suicides had been committed, surveyed the households where suicides had not been committed, okay, to find the difference and so on. And they did an excellent econometric study, see, trying to find out what are the causes which lead farmers into indebtedness and so on. Unfortunately, this thesis or this project, even though it's an excellent project, did not have much of a policy impact, And so it is not really necessary that your thesis will have a policy impact, but at least the policy conclusions must be there. Okay. Now, these are some of the very, very practical obstacles and practical guideposts for people embarking on their research career. Okay. Now, apart from this, as a senior person, I can tell you that please do not rush. You see, many people say that, look here, I want to do this, I want to get a job, I want to get married, etc., etc. Okay, so let me complete my thesis in 2.5 years. Okay, see, be patient. Okay, be patient. See, your girlfriend can wait. Okay, you see, take your time, but do not compromise on quality. Okay, so better to submit a good thesis after 3.5 years than to publish a rush job in, say, 2 years or something like that. Okay. Now, among them, there are so many examples that I can give you of excellent thesis. At the highest level, you have Amartya Sen's Choice of Techniques, which was a PhD thesis. Okay. Lerner's Economics of Control, which was also a PhD thesis, and so many others. Okay. You can find Professor Chakravarti's thesis on optimum savings. You see, book which later became a book in MIT Press called Capital and Development Planning. All this arose from PhD thesis. So a PhD thesis can be an excellent piece of work. See, so if you work hard, you can, there is plenty of scope for finding new hypotheses. You see, the world is changing. Okay, new challenges are coming up. So you can find new topics, but you have to exercise some ingenuity. Okay. Now, your guide and committee members will, of course, play a role. Okay. They will play a role, but you cannot be totally dependent on them. You see, they will guide you. But the bulk of the work has to be done by yourself. Okay. I think I've spoken enough. Okay. So let me take a pause here. And I welcome all the new students and, of course, all of you to this thing. And I hope this talk has been useful to you. Okay. And I wish you all the best for a successful research career. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. From your experience of guiding around 40 students, I think this comes very contextual and useful to the students, the guidelines that you have mentioned. Of course, students have already come up with some proposal for their interviews, but they also change because the 2-semester coursework that they do here, they're open to also change their topics or come up with new kind of issues or new kind of areas in which they are interested. So, and then the faculty tries to shape that into research proposals. And moreover, this is also interdisciplinary in nature. So they also consult other faculty and then faculty also will give their suggestions. And because the doctoral committee also has a members, internal member and external members, where they give their suggestions for betterment of their proposals or their progress also. And we have also, yes, academic contribution of the thesis is there, where generally it is also said that it's light bearing and fruit bearing. Light bearing may be more of contribution to the academic, fruit bearing is into the policy. So we need not worry about if we are not giving any policy contribution also, it's okay, but it has to contribute to the academics, creation of new knowledge. And the choice of topic, the scope and the perspective, all these you have given some very useful kind of suggestions to the students. And generally they are also trained in both the perspective as well as the how they carry it out. That is a statistical analysis and all. And the skills that are needed for doing this kind of work, because in the 2 semesters they are equipped in all these so that they can carry out the work independently by themselves and then come out with a very good quality kind of thesis. And they also come up with very interesting areas, interesting topics. Sometimes they are now working, they come up with AI related issues and of course microfinance and these are the financial inclusion, these are already there. Also from their own experience, they want to work on that. They have some insights into that and then want to work on that. And not being descriptive and being analytical is also very important because as you mentioned rightly that it's not a correlation or the causal inference is important and the reasons for why a certain phenomenon happens is important. And thank you, sir, for these very interesting suggestions for the students as well as for all of us also. And we look forward for more lectures by you whenever it's possible, maybe online or even when you are here. And sir has been suggesting other faculty also from other institutions who could really give useful lectures to the students on various topics of interest on India's development debate or also on econometric issues so that it will be useful for the students. And we look forward to your guidance in carrying out this PhD program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy about one thing that, your courses lay a great deal of stress on research methodology because that is very, very important. It's a very, very important component of, a PhD program. Okay. So, shall we conclude?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. Okay. So thank you very much, all of you.